Governor Snyder is preparing to deliver his 6th State of the State address in less than 2 hours.
We have team coverage of Governor Snyder's State of the State address. 7 and 4's Mara Thompson is live at Lansing City Hall, where a rally for Flint's water crisis is just getting started. But we begin with 7 and 4's Tom Kramer. He joins us now live from the Capitol building. Tom, what is the governor expected to include in tonight's speech?
Well, of course, a lot of it at this point is speculation, but the lawmakers I spoke with earlier today say they expect the governor to touch on several topics, including education, specifically all that's going on with the Detroit public school system. Other possible topics tonight: the state of Michigan's roads and infrastructure, and, of course, the economy. But one topic, above all others, is expected to take up the majority of tonight's address. And I caught up with Ray Franz from the 101st District earlier today.
Probably the biggest thing I hope to see is he take on the Flint situation up front and really take it on. We need to take action. I think he's well aware of that right now, and I'm sure that'll be probably a majority of the speech, and I'm looking for some positive action on it.
The annual State of the State address will begin at 7 o'clock. Our team coverage continues tonight with 7 and 4's Mara Thompson. She's at Lansing City Hall, where protesters are gathering to demand accountability and answers to the Flint water crisis. Mara, who is holding this rally?
Mark and Kristen, as you can see behind me, there are already hundreds of people getting ready for this rally, which is about to start right now. There are going to be multiple speakers here right outside the Lansing Capitol right before the State of the State happens tonight. There's going to be Flint families, labor groups, and health organizations here to talk about what is happening in Flint right now. They say they want answers for what is going on with the Flint water crisis. I spoke with a registered nurse earlier, and she says it's taken way too long for Governor Snyder to take action.
I believe he didn't act soon enough, and I believe that he knew what was going on, and he allowed it to happen, and shame on him. You know, if we poisoned somebody, we'd go to jail. He's poisoned somebody. He's poisoned a lot of people, and it shouldn't be that way.
The press conference is just about to start right now, so we will have more for you on what they say coming up on 7 and 4 News at 6. Reporting live in Lansing, Mara Thompson, 7 and 4 News.
Thanks, Mara. We have continuing coverage tonight of Flint's drinking water crisis.
Everybody is in the same position. They have all been victimized by these unconstitutional actions of these public officials.
3 lawsuits against Governor Snyder and Flint's former state-appointed emergency managers are happening for the way they've handled the city's emergency. Today, President Obama also says he will meet with Flint's mayor, who is in Washington, D.C., fighting for a state of disaster declaration and the millions of dollars in support it would mean for the city. Toxic water started spewing from city faucets when Flint switched its water system away from the Detroit River in 2014. Corrosive water pulled lead out of the city's aging pipes and into people's homes. President Obama has already signed an emergency declaration, but there's a push for a state of disaster. So far, that's been denied because Flint's water crisis is a man-made problem, not a natural disaster.
State of emergency only gives us a $5 million cap, which the president has already signed for. If they would have submitted for a disaster declaration, we could have got the $96 million or more.
Flint residents want answers in the water contamination crisis. Many believe laws were broken by the state and people should go to jail. Emails obtained using the Freedom of Information Act show that the state ignored warnings about the water for months. There's also concern water samples showing high levels of lead were thrown out, so federal warnings would not be triggered.
In here, where you're talking about a public safety issue, where you exclude 3 potentially material samples of water because you don't like the results, I think that's fraud, plain and simple.
Governor Snyder's emails are not public record and would have to be subpoenaed. There are 2 investigations underway right now that have the power to do that. One by a Michigan Attorney General Bill Schuette, the other by the U.S. Department of Justice and the EPA. The Flint water crisis is expected to be a huge part of Governor Snyder's State of the State address. We have a link to the live stream of that speech at the top of our website, upnorthlive.com. It all starts at 7 o'clock.
The way things went, nothing you can do. Just be thankful that we're all safe and keep going.
A lifelong farmer is lucky to be alive tonight, but devastated by the loss of 2 barns to a fast-moving fire. Authorities say this fire started around 11 o'clock this morning. Firefighters arrived at the farm on Lake Avalon Road in Montmorency County to find multiple structures in flames. The owner of the farm confirmed that the 2 barns had been holding many of the property's animals. While the cows managed to escape before the barns collapsed, several pigs and a number of ducks did not make it out. There was also a large supply of hay in the barn, making it difficult for firefighters to try to contain it.
Here the wind was blowing very, very hard, contributed a lot to fire suppression, icy roads, things of that nature. We were able to get water on it, but unfortunately, when the first new arriving truck, we had flames extending from every portion of this barn.
The results of the fire could have actually been worse. Officials say that if the wind had been blowing in the opposite direction, it would have spread to the main house and other buildings. Also lost in the blaze, hundreds of dollars in animal feed, tools, and farming equipment. Both of the barns were more than 50 years old and had been in the family for 3 generations. The man accused of jumping the fence at Cherry Capital Airport in Traverse City is now looking at prison time. Nico Delgado has been charged with airport trespassing, illegally driving away, and having marijuana. Police say they found Delgado inside an unlocked runway de-icer truck last week. When they confronted him, they say he ran away. And because it's an airport, the FBI, Homeland Security, and TSA were all involved. Delgado will be back in court on February 2nd.
An Amber Alert for a little girl and her teenage cousin from Saginaw has been canceled. Michigan State Police say the 2-year-old and 15-year-old were found safe in the Grand Rapids area just hours ago.
Now, the Amber Alert for Malay Hill and her teen cousin, Michaela Williams, was issued this morning. The girls are now in FBI custody. Agents aren't saying how they found the girls, but did say they were found in northeast Grand Rapids.
Michigan State Police funding for Kalkaska County's emergency management services has been suspended. Michigan State Police say required paperwork, training, and exercises were not completed and turned in last year. So MSP is withholding $8,000. The county matches MSP's funding. The emergency manager coordinates things between the sheriff's office and other public services in emergency situations.
The state funding, of course, helps. Any money helps in a community like ours, but again, we're not in a position where we're going to have to cut services or anything like that to the citizens.
The current emergency manager has sent a resignation letter to the board. The board is working on a replacement and adding stricter reporting procedures for the future.
It's like being born again. And I just really feel proud to be an American.
Extremely lucky to be alive. That's how Michigan Marine Amir Hekmati, one of 3 Americans now free from Iranian prison, sums up his feelings tonight. Hekmati was arrested for spying in 2011 while visiting his grandmother in Iran. The Flint native spoke to the media for the first time this morning in Germany. The 32-year-old has been going through medical and psychological tests while he gets ready to come home.
We're still, this is all still surreal, and we're just soaking it all in right now. But there is a lot that I have to say about the experience and what happened, and I hope to bring that to the American people and the world.
Hekmati also said the Iranians who captured him were amazed at how hard the U.S. worked to bring him home. He says the support of his family and the Marine Corps brothers gave him that strength to get through each day he spent behind bars for the last 4.5 years. A Supreme Court showdown on President Obama's halt of illegal immigrant deportation will happen this summer. It's an important battle in a divisive issue. Right in the middle of an election year, the president's policy would let millions of undocumented adults who've been in America for 5 years and don't have criminal records stay if their kids are U.S. citizens. Michigan and 25 other states have blocked the move. The Supreme Court will hear the case in April with a decision expected by late June.
The father of a boy found in a Detroit basement pled guilty to child abuse. Charles Bethel IV admits he hit his 12-year-old son with a PVC pipe. He will spend 18 months in prison and take anger management classes. This case captured national attention when the boy vanished from his father's home in 2014. He was found 11 days later in the basement of that same home. In court, the boy testified his dad's strict regimen of intense exercise and punishments happened.
Another sad death of a rock and roll legend. Glenn Frey, co-founder of the Eagles and Detroit native, died at the age of 67. The band says he's been fighting arthritis, pneumonia, and a digestive issue for weeks now. Well, Eagles frontman Don Henley credits Frey for starting it all. Coming up in our 5:30 half hour, we're going to hear how a local man with a unique connection to Frey is remembering the rock legend tonight. It is the middle of winter. Tigers have us thinking about spring already. USA Today and other sources are saying the team will sign outfielder Justin Upton. The reported deal for the 28-year-old slugger, 6 years, $132 million. With the Padres last year, Upton hit .251 with 26 homers, 81 RBI, and 19 stolen bases. Upton would likely patrol left field at Comerica Park. Nearly a dozen healthcare employers came together today in hopes of filling what's being called a caregiver shortage here in northern Michigan.
Agape Healthcare Schools in Traverse City hosted a job fair this afternoon. Job seekers were able to get their foot in the door of the healthcare world and connect with future employers about the caregiving industry. Staff with Agape say there's such a need to fill because of the large baby boomer population that's starting to hit retirement age.
I think there's a generational shift right now. I think you got a lot of aging population. The population 50 and above is just getting larger. So you've got a generation gap there between able-bodied caregivers, trained caregivers, and an enormous baby boomer population.
Link says you can start an entry-level position making between $10 and $15 an hour. And when it comes to paying for training, you could qualify for a grant through Michigan Works or put on a payment plan. A reminder, for the latest news, sports, and weather anytime, log on to our website, upnorth5.com.
The temperatures are going to stay very cold. Actually, if you look at the numbers, though, in history, the 20s we're going to see for highs tomorrow, the next several days, really close to normal. So it's a cold forecast, but typical for this time of the year. Well, show you the radar, talk about the numbers, and show you the fish and game report.